when they prepared comprehensive training policy, they have very aptly taken this into account, and also the importance of creativity and innovation for meeting the indigenous needs of the country and developing technology that can help India in further growth and development, and also create a culture of creativity and innovation in institutions. That is the need of the day, that now COVID 2019 created a situation where many of our faculty colleagues have jumped into new instructional strategies online, and they have been trying the new apps for increasing or enhancing the student engagement in learning. People have also expressed concern about the assessment of the students' performance, and also there they have tried out many softwares for multiple choice questions, descriptive questions, and they have been comparing the efficiency and effectiveness of the various softwares which are available. So in what I actually want to emphasize is the context in which we are operating, creativity, innovation becomes very essential, and students who are likely to be the graduate engineers in time to come and joining the world of work, they'll be also expected to possess these soft skills of creativity, innovation, and in addition to the research and development. So as a teacher, we are taking up research, creativity, innovation, and in addition to the research, undertake research and development to develop pedagogical content knowledge. What works best in taking up research may not work well in electronics, or what works in computer science may not work in civil engineering. So what are these instructional strategies, instructional media, the kind of evaluation techniques which are best suited for a particular discipline? That pedagogical content knowledge needs to be developed by the teachers for improving the quality of technical education. And in addition, we find each institution is facing number of problems with respect to maybe the intake which we have, the quality of students who take admission in the colleges, the kind of instructional processes which are being used, the kind of evaluation techniques that are in place or in vogue. And yesterday only you had a student assessment and evaluation module, and afterwards a small talk on examination reforms which AICT has initiated, and NITO Bhopal has taken the leadership to implement those in 2 of the states rigorously. Now, if these are the state of affair where we need to bring in change, we need to think divergently in different directions. So creative problem solving is what is required, because most of the time there is conventional, rigid, one-directional, unidirectional thinking which is taking place. And many times we are not able to solve problems which are faced by us as teachers or members of any organization or society. So a comprehensive training policy, this module on research and technical education was available on SWAYM platform. So they requested us to include 3 components into that module, which was primarily written to promote research and development in teaching, learning, and evaluation, and fulfill the requirements of the comprehensive training policy. So the competency, what is expected of a teacher, inductee teacher, once he undergoes the module on the SWAYM platform, is that he should be able to or will be able to undertake research and development activities to find innovative solutions to the problems in teaching learning. First component, because teaching learning or teaching is one of the primary duties of a teacher. And then in their own respective domain areas, it is not only limited to teaching learning, but they should also be able to take up research and innovation in their own respective domain areas, maybe civil, electrical, computers, and so on. And then the global problems and issues which are faced by the society, a person should be able to find solutions to those problems. Keeping in view the overall competence of the module 7, the module outcomes were specified as that a person after undergoing this module should be able to solve problems creatively, innovate in the processes, services and products at workplace, build effective teams for R&D. This may be as a member of the team, as a leader of the team, or in addition to that, maybe a teacher is able to constitute teams of students for undertaking R&D, undertaking the project work, and so on. And lastly, the person should be able to undertake research to improve the various subcomponents of the education system, which was the primary focus of that particular module. So, keeping in view the module outcomes, so the total module was divided into Unit 1 and Unit 2. Because Unit 2 was already available in the form of research and technical education. So Unit 1 was added to Unit 2. So creative problem solving is the very first topic which is covered under Unit 1. Then innovation, R&D through team building. So these are the three additional topics which have been added. So coming to the very first one, creative problem solving. Now, why is there a need for creative problem solving? Problems exist everywhere, whether you talk in terms of the political arena, social, you have the problems, education area, number of parameters are under criticism and there exist number of problems, environment, whether you talk of pollution, air pollution, water pollution, and so on, these problems which exist in the environment are faced by us as an individuals, as members of various groups, as members of the organizations or institutions or industry, or maybe as a member of the society. And when I'm saying society, it is not limited to the society in wider terms, that globally we are facing these problems and we need to find these solution to these problems. So why these problems are becoming complex day by day? These are not simple problems. These are very complex problems which are affected by multiplicity of factors, and they don't have one single solution to these to them. So what we need is actually the synergy among the people who possess specialized knowledge in variety of areas, and synergy among them can lead to finding solutions to actually the synergy and problems. Most of the time we view problem as a problem. Now, for example, when I say view problem as a problem, we say that students' employability is less. Students are not readily accepted by the industry. That's a problem. Now, the same problem can be viewed as a need. At present, maybe the employability is 20%, but you want to increase it to 40 or 50%. So the gap between the what should be and what is, the desired state and the existing state. So there is a gap of 50 minus 20, so 30% is the gap. So that gap needs to be bridged. And it is a challenge or an opportunity for an institution to produce industry-ready graduates. So that may be considered as a challenge or an opportunity whereby one can focus on what are the gray areas or the weaknesses and then develop those mitigate the weaknesses, and develop those soft skills which have become essential for the industry. So when we looked at what happened when you had taken up the Google form, let me just go to the Google form because it consisted of the very first question, that problems faced by the society in 21st century. And luckily, majority of the people have said these problems are complex and these are interdisciplinary. So 76% said these are complex, 67% said these are interdisciplinary, and ill structured, only 38%. And I would simply conclude that the problems which we are facing in 21st century, they fulfill the criteria of being complex. These are interdisciplinary in nature, and these are very ill structured because there is no definite identification of the variables that affect, and also we don't have one single answer to these problems. So ill structured means multiplicity of variables are affected and multiplicity of disciplines come into play to find solution to these problems. So synergy is very much required when we have to find solutions to these problems. And in addition to that, so what is needed? We cannot simply look at these problems and find solution. What is needed is the creativity on the part of individual. So creative problem solving, when we say, is a process of finding creative solutions to the problems. And creativity is the underlying concept in creative problem solving. But look at the people as we mature, as we become older, more of rigidity, more fear of failure creeps in, and we are bothered about what the people would say. We are not giving wings to our imagination. We are controlled. We contain ourselves into the boundaries and just try to adopt the trodden path. We don't tread the untrodden path. So when we look at creativity, creativity is actually characterized by flexibility, where a person can generate variety of ideas. Now, say for example, if I say uses of a pen, maybe a paper clip, okay. So you can generate 10, 20, 30 weird ideas about the use of the paper clip. Fluency, fluency, I put it, fluency is generation of ideas, and flexibility refers to that you generate ideas in different directions. That means if you are thinking of paper clip, one is you are always thinking of using a paper clip for stitching the papers or stitching some cloth or using it as a stitch material. But you can always think of paper clip can be used in piece of art. Paper clip can be used to support something. Paper clip can be used to give, maybe you are drawing something, geometrical patterns. You can use pins and show the geometrical patterns. So you are thinking of the use of paper clip in different ways. So that is your flexibility. Originality means how novel is the idea, and elaboration means can you elaborate upon how a pin can be used to represent geometrical figures. So if you can elaborate on that, that means so creativity is characterized by these, and luckily we have that people have said all these are essential characteristics of this. Then what we find is that creative problem solving, the process, as I said, is defining a problem, generating alternate solutions, selecting the best solution, and implementation. So 72% of the colleagues very well understand that in simple words, what do we mean by the process of creative problem solving. If I had taken up one question on the blocks to creativity or not, no, not here. So let me go back to that. In addition to dealing with the concept then of creativity, in the present module we have gone into details of the process of creativity, and then we have also dealt with the blocks to creativity. So as I said earlier, we grow and mature, the fear of failure, that I'm going to fail. If I'm going to try anything new, maybe there is a risk that I fail. So I don't try the new way, new method of teaching, new method of evaluation, or new media, or new way of organizing the group activities, or new way of embedding the curricular and co-curricular activities. So I am always afraid of that. Then allergy to ambiguity. So everybody is looking for a structure, organized way of things. So if there is some kind of missing structure or missing planning or organization of things, people are not able to accept that. The blocks to creativity, I think this is wrongly here. So conformity is another, that we conform to the social norm. Whatever are the existing norms, we would like to conform to those social norms and not go beyond that. And rigidity, I've been doing this task for years together in the same manner. I've been teaching to my students into the class using a lecture method. So what is the need for change? There is starved sensibility, because the creative process starts with sensing gaps in the existing situation. So if the person is not sensitive to the gaps that exist in the existing situation, many of us adopt an attitude of indifference to the situation. जैसे चलता है चलने दीजिए. So that is going to cause problem, and people don't think of the novel solutions to the problem. Resource myopia. T is extra here, myopia. We are not able to visualize the resources that exist outside the classroom, outside the department, outside the institution, in the society, nearby industry, nearby library, and so on. So their person is only looking at what is available in the classroom, in the department, institution. He is not going beyond that, and he's looking only in one direction. And this is where you have all agreed that the process starts with identification of a problem, definition of a problem, then generation of creative ideas, and selecting the best option, and then implementing, and finally evaluating. So this is the first topic which has been dealt, and the second topic deals with innovation. And innovations, as I said in the beginning, that without innovation, there is no survival or growth possible. And if we are going to innovate, one essential element is that it is commercialization of invention. Whatever new invention, unless and until the benefit of that invention reaches the customer, we cannot say innovation. So innovation can be in terms of products, in terms of processes, can be in terms of the paradigm shift, the mindset which person has developed that changes, or maybe positioning of the product or the services. And it is always, the innovation is always based upon the market study or the feasibility study and rigorous research undertaken by the people who are involved in the process of innovation. So here, the process of innovation passes through 5 different stages. So while dealing with this topic, before we dealt with the process, we also dealt with the types of innovation, and one can think of two types, major two types of innovation. One are the incremental innovation, another one is the rapid innovation. And incremental innovation is where you make small changes in the existing products, processes, and so on. Radical means a radical change in the way the things are done or the product looks like. So when you talk about adding new features to the mobile phone, this is increment innovation which has taken place over a period of time. And when you think of the Google car or the self-driving cars, these are examples of the radical innovations that have taken place. And the process is here you can see idea generation, then mobilization of that idea. And then once you pick up some potential idea where innovation can take place, you need to advocate the idea, popularize with the people, and then screen and then select one of the ideas and then go for experimentation of that idea, whether it works or not. And then finally commercialize the idea by giving it a scale and diffusing the and diffusion and implementation, making it available to the customer. So innovation, these are three things: concept, process has been dealt with. Now then R&D, that is team building through team building, R&D through team building. That was the third topic in Unit 1. And nobody would deny the fact that team building or teamwork has actually been emphasized in all sectors of economy. You think of industry, our students better to work in teams once they find them. And in the colleges, we also have teams where we take up types of activities in teams. And then you look to that institutes are collaborating with other institutes and making wider teams at the national level or international level. IIT Bombay is the one which has set a benchmark as far as the international teams are concerned for research and development.
Your voice is breaking.
The team that what is the need of a team, how the group differs from the team, what are the process of team building. That is, it starts with the formation of a team or the constitution of team. Then there is storming where the people are not clear about their roles and they vie for the positions in the team. So a lot of generation of ideas, strategies is there at storming stage, and people are looking for occupying the important positions in the team. Then comes a stage of norming, where the rules and standards of behavior and work are accepted by the team. And then comes the performing, where the team actually starts functioning and people shoulder the individual responsibilities assigned to them. And there is a mechanism for dealing with problems, resolving the conflicts, etc. And then comes the adjourning or adjournment of the team. That means final closure needs to be given to the teamwork. So then the fourth unit, or you can say unit 2, focuses on the research. Before I switch over to this, let's take up what have been your responses to the questions on innovation. Now, when I look to here, there was one question related to innovation. That innovation is commercialization of an invention, invention itself, research, or creative problem solving. Here I find
मैडम तुलसी आपके स्क्रीन चेंज नहीं हो रही है मैडम.
चेंज नहीं हो
we are getting the process of innovation on the display.
Just a
Okay,
minute.
now it has come.
Thank you. So innovation, there was one question, innovation, and there were four alternatives. People have written as creative problem solving. But the right answer is commercialization of an invention. Anything new which has been there, you commercialize that unless and until the benefit of that invention reach the customer, it cannot be labeled as innovation. In simple words, it is commercialization of an invention. Creativity is involved in all innovations. Creative problem solving may not lead to innovation, but innovation involves creative problem solving. That is the difference. Then my question to the house was research. What are the four basic capabilities that are required? Here I find different percentage of people have given. So all these are formulation of a research proposal is the very first step in research. And once a proposal is through, person organizes and conduct the research. And once the research has been carried out, data has been collected, analyzed, a person needs to write a research report. And once a research report is submitted to the organization, to the institution, then or to the funding agency, the research needs to be evaluated. And the researcher, when he is trying to build up on the existing research, he needs to evaluate the given piece of research before he tries to include that piece of research in his review of related literature or so on. All these are essential capabilities which need to be possessed when research is to be undertaken. And here, if I go to the PowerPoint presentation again, you will see that these are four basic capabilities that are required. And to undertake research, what is needed is the process of research, which starts with selecting and defining a research problem. So there are abundance of problems that exist in technical education system. One can think of input, the students who are joining the system. And if I have to lay down the criteria for admission, I need to know which type of students will be best suited for my diploma or a degree program which I'm going to offer in, or I'm concerned with what kind of teachers. So what should be the qualification of teacher for a degree program, for the diploma program, or the ITI? Even then, I can think of that I need to take up research where I can find out what should be the basic qualification of people joining the various levels of profession. Or maybe when I'm talking about that my students, there are a variety of instructional methods which are available. So what kind of methods would be best suited for my students who are coming with 10 or coming with 10 plus 2 or coming with a vernacular language? That means medium of instruction. I'm going to teach in English, and then I have host of decisions to be made. And selecting and defining a research problem starts with the major issue which you need to break down into the specific constituent parts and come out with a specific segment of a problem. Because
Madam Tulsi, Madam, will you please just put that on full screen mode, presentation mode? Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry. So when we are looking at that, all these things are possible if we follow the steps of selecting and defining a problem. Then, so the Selecting and defining a problem is the very first step in undertaking research. And then once you have identified a problem and defined a problem, means you have identified the variables which you need to be studied, then you try to formulate your objectives of research, or you are trying to then carry out a review of related literature. You can see here, because review of related literature helps you in clarifying the variable and formulating the objectives of your study, and also formulating the hypothesis, the tentative solution to your problem. So in addition to that, the step in research is describing methodology of research. So when we see describing methodology of research, so wide variety of techniques or the methodologies exist. You can classify research either on the basis of the purpose they serve, or you can classify the research on the basis of methodology they follow. So when I say the methodology, I'm primarily concerned with, am I going to take up a basic research, applied research, action research, or I'm going to take up an evaluation research? So whether the purpose is to generate new knowledge as basic research, if I'm going to test that theory in the field, that becomes applied research. And then if I'm going to take up a specific problem faced by a specific teacher in the classroom, it's going to be an action research. And if I'm going to deal with the impact of any strategy or any policy, that becomes my evaluation research. So one way of classifying research is that on the basis of the purpose they serve. Another way of classifying is the methodology which is used in undertaking the research. So we can classify research that it deals with the past events. So we are dealing with historical research. If we're dealing with existing phenomena, existing processes, existing beliefs, then we are dealing with the descriptive research. And then what is existing, that is descriptive research. And we are dealing with that, is there any relationship between two things? Or maybe we are thinking of the student variables. So can we say there exists relationship between the previous knowledge a student brings to the class and the achievement in a particular subject? Is there a relationship? We are talking in terms of the correlation research. And there can be ex post facto research, where we deal with the ex post facto. That means both cause and effect has already taken place. Now, for example, teachers who are teaching in the institution, they possess different levels of qualification. So maybe I would like to I have a reason to believe that the people with different qualification, their effectiveness, they indicate, is different. And that may be on account of the differences in the qualification. So I find a difference in teaching effectiveness. I ascribe that reason to the different qualification possessed by the teachers. So that is ex post facto research. And then we are looking at experimental research, where we try to manipulate the variable and see its effect on other variables. Say, I'm talking in terms of instructional strategies. So you are using lecture method, but in addition to, we are talking in terms of problem-based learning or project method. So if I'm going to use the project method of instruction in the class, whether project method of instruction will help me to achieve my objectives and whether student achieve better through project method or not, I try to compare the effectiveness of lecture with the project method. So that is where I'm talking of type of researches, experimental research. So then we have these types of historical, descriptive research, correlational research, ex post factor.
Madam, we are not getting that list displayed. Only we are getting research process slide displayed.
Yeah, that's the only thing I'm going to show.
Okay,
I'm not
okay,
Good morning, Kuldeep.
to show anything else.
okay, okay.
So
Thank you.
types of research, we are dealing with all the various types of researches. That is starting with historical, descriptive, correlational, ex post facto, and experimental research. And then here you find collecting data. Now, when we talk in terms of collecting data, that would require administration of the instruments and then collecting the data. And here you can use different, here before you go for collection of data, one needs to select sample, because all the time you cannot have the population as your part of the study. So you need to select sample. So you can select a representative sample from the population, or you can select a non-random sample or a non-representative sample, which we call as one is the probability sample, another one is the non-probability sample. Probability, where you can determine the chances of inclusion or exclusion of a particular sample in the study or a person in the study, and non-probability sample, where you cannot determine the chances of somebody to be in or out of the sample from the population. So selection of samples, so probability and non-probability sampling techniques one need to know. And then for collection of data, one needs to go in for, one can use a number of instruments or measures as we call them.
Good morning, madam.
These can be in the form of standardized tests. So standardized tests can be on the intelligence, emotional intelligence, aptitude test, and so on. And then there are researcher developed instruments which can be used. So when we say researcher developed, it can be in the form of questionnaires, attitude scales, interest scale, inventories, and opinionaires, etc., which can be designed and used by the researcher for collecting the information. And then comes your collection of data. Collection of data means you administer the instruments and you are able to gather the information, which may be quantitative, which may be qualitative. So when I say questionnaire, primarily I'm going to collect the quantitative information. When I talk in terms of the open-ended questions in the questionnaire, I'm going to get a qualitative information. Interviews allow you to gather qualitative information. Observations allow you to support the information which you have gathered through questionnaire or through interview schedule. So primarily, we have dealt with three types of instrument: the questionnaires, the interview schedules, and the observation schedules. And then you have the standardized tests which are available, which can be used to gather the data. Once the data has been collected, that needs to be tabulated, and after that, one has to go in for analysis of data. And analysis of data can be, you can think of that first comes the descriptive analysis, then comes the inferential statistics, which can be applied on the data. When I'm talking of descriptive, we are talking in terms of mean, median, mode, or frequency distributions, which we go in for. And when we talk in terms of inferential statistics, we are talking about the correlation, we're talking about the t-test, we talk about the ANOVA, analysis of variance or analysis of covariance, or we talk in terms of the correlations by serial, partial correlation, multiple correlations, and so on. So these are the underlying capabilities that are required for undertaking research. And this whole process is supported by the review of literature. So review of literature, even to select a problem, one undertakes review of related literature. And once the problem has been defined, then also the person takes intensive review of related literature to that particular problem. So review of related literature helps you in identifying the gaps, crystallizing the problem which you would like to study, and then supports what have been the findings of your study. It lends support whether they are in contradiction to it. It helps you in giving or building explanation to that. So this is the whole underlying process of research. So dealing with unit 2, we have dealt with what is the need for research. Policymaker, administrator, teacher, student, society, each one of us would require research finding to support our decision making. So when we talk in terms of evidence decision making, that is where we would require research data and research findings to support our decisions. So formulation of policies, taking administrative decision, taking instructional decisions, taking a decision to join an institution or not to join, all research which is available can support this kind of decision making. And all these are different types of research. So in the module which we have developed, we have dealt with, starting with the, because historical research we have left out, descriptive research, correlational, ex post facto, experimental research, we have covered in the module in detail. And here, these are the various steps which are to be followed in undertaking the research. And ultimately, if you undertake all these steps, you are able to organize and conduct research. And after you have organized the research, you are able to write a research report. And while you are carrying out review of related literature, you are evaluating the research which is already available. And you can also evaluate any piece of research which is produced, or you can evaluate your own research report. So in nutshell, this is the focus where all these aspects have been dealt in the creative problem solving, innovation, and meaningful R&D. Primary focus is research in teaching, learning, and evaluation. And here you can see that Unit 2 of the module includes all these topics which have been dealt at length in the module. And then self-learning modules with a difference that we have input. There is a practice task, there is a feedback which is available to the learner. All these self-learning modules have been developed for the topics which form a part of this. And then videos, almost 43 videos have been developed to support preprint instructional material. And then activities were planned where we have tried to include the task to be given to the individuals. Then assessment was based upon both the activities as well as the end module examination. Let me just give you a brief idea about what the activities which were planned. These were the original activities which have been planned for this module. But let me share that this time when this module was offered, these activities could not be undertaken. Looking at the scale of people who have joined the module, 3,700 something. So instead of all this, what has happened, only the 4 module assessments were taken up, and then the platform allowed people to join the module in between. So then I had to increase one assessment to allow the new joinees to complete the assessment requirements. And all these have been based upon the multiple choice questions, which according to me and most of the people who have undertaken the module, they were not happy that this is the way how we need to assess the people. Because if we are training people in creative problem solving and meaningful R&D, it should be based upon these things. And when I have offered this program on the SWAM platform initially, I had taken up these tasks rather than going for multiple choice questions. So people were not given any internal assessment based upon the task, but they had taken up the task and the feedback was provided to the people to how they identify the problem, how they write an abstract for the given piece of literature, how could they identify the research problem and then write objectives and hypotheses, and then they were asked to design a small questionnaire and they were asked to submit a small research proposal. The attempt were not up to the satisfactory level, not to the satisfaction of the people who were involved in the program, but still they were involved in taking up the task. But this time, looking at the numbers 3,700 something, it was not possible for us to go in for these tasks which were actually planned for the module and just go by the multiple choice questions assessment 5. Then we had at the end asked the teachers to give the emotional intelligence scale that was administered, and the results were shared with them, and they were asked to the data was analyzed by me only, and then results were given to them to interpret at their own level. So when we are looking at this particular module without actual active involvement of the trainees in taking up small studies along with when they pursue the module, maybe we are not able to do justice. The first time I offered the module, I was able to do it, but this time it was not possible giving training to 3,000 something and then asking them to take up studies, and then it was restricted only to multiple choice questions. According to me, next time when the module is likely to be offered, it will be in the form of that a person selects a study and carry out that study during the program and submit the report at the end of the program. So here we look at the 4 basic outcomes which were expected, that people are able to solve problems, innovate the processes, services and products at work life, then build effective teams for R&D and undertake research to improve the various subcomponents. So here, facilitate implementation of what has been learned. What is the role of mentor? Whatever I have learned in the module, the mentor is going to facilitate the process of the follow-up action which I need to take at my workplace as an employee of that organization. So the mentor is going to help the trainee teacher to identify some of the creative solution to the problems that exist. He may like to try out some new method of instruction in the class, may like to organize the classes in altogether a different manner, or sequence the activities in a class into different way. So, or maybe an inductee teacher would like to organize the laboratory and the workshop in a different manner. So the role of the mentor is to facilitate the process of trying out whatever the mentee teacher has learned in the program and to what extent he is able to implement the learning at the workplace, and then support that mentee teacher in implementation of the learning and see its effect on the learning of the learners. Or in other words, we can say that when we talk in terms of a mentor is not only going to evaluate, he's going to facilitate, support, and also collaborate with the mentee teacher in order to facilitate the implementation of whatever has been learned in the module. So if we are looking at these 4 things, solve problems creatively, innovate the process, build effective teams, and undertake. So maybe to begin with, all these four things may not be there, but maybe a person, a teacher would like to take up action research project at the workplace in the class which he is teaching. He's not taking up research in terms of descriptive or experimental or so on, but he or she is more concerned with trying out new strategies to deal with the problems that exist in his own classroom and find solution to those. And their action research needs to be implemented. Or if the person is trying out new strategies in the classroom, then he is trying to share the results with what is the outcome of, if I'm going for problem based learning, how the learning of my students have improved upon. If I'm going to organize the group based upon their interest and intelligence, then what is the outcome of group activity? So small experiments which a teacher does in the class and finds solution to the problems, that is a part of action research. So the role of mentor will be facilitating the implementation of what has been learned and also facilitating wherever the corrective is needed, support the mentee teacher in taking the right steps to implement what has been learned, and also supporting him wherever the need is there. And then finally, the mentee needs to be evaluated by the mentor. So I stop here because this is the first part where what has been included in the module and what a mentee can do and is expected to do at workplace. Maybe not all the four things, but he is into one thing or two things. So one has to take a balanced approach. Maybe all the four things will not be there in the first year or maybe initial 6 months. It will take time for the mentee teacher to implement all this at the workplace. I stop here. Now, I would request if there are questions with respect to these, let's take up the question. So here,
can we break for 3 to 5 minutes so that they go and come back?
जैसे आप suggest करेंगे, अगर break लेनी है तो we stop here and then continue maybe after 5 to 7 minutes.
And then you've last you take the questions because
okay,
I think that's
okay, that is okay with me. Yeah. Is it okay with the trainees?
Now it's 11:10. We come back at 11:15 sharp.
Okay.